Hey, what's up? This is Derek Crabb. I just decided that after a while I had enough distance from some of these to do the second season, I guess what I consider the second season of History of Comics on Film. There's a new intro, as you can see. It's a little Tony Stark. So yeah, I kind of liked that and thought like the last one was kind of instrumental, and so I went with that. So this is on the Adventures of Superboy television pilot, and I was still using a Movie Maker at this point, but I was also using Camtasia Studio. So I think when eventually you'll see some of the comic clips that are actually going to start having, some music set to the backdrop. I was just trying to make it a little more flowy and interesting and not just a lot of dead air or just me talking over comic panels. Also, I tried to segue, there's Super Pup and how they tried to do like a Jimmy Olsen TV series and stuff like that. And so, I don't think that I wanted to spend a whole bunch of time on Super Pup. Like, I didn't want to give him his own segment, but I figured, it's worth mentioning that, basically after the George Reeves series, they tried to retool it a couple different ways once that ended. And anyway, one of the ways was Super Pup, and one of the ways was Jimmy Olsen, and then this Superboy pilot, was another way, which would have been nice to see, because they wrote about 13 episodes worth, apparently. But they only shot the one, I guess, and that's what we're sort of exploring here. Yeah, and then it's funny, I noticed little things like that you probably didn't notice or whatever, but with the Movie Maker sometimes you get these little snippets of a freeze frame of a shot, and I noticed once I switched to Premiere, I was able to sort of eliminate that, and it's like sometimes you just don't realize when you're in Movie Maker about those snippets until it's too late. But anyway, it's weird. Coming back now, it's like you can kind of, I can kind of be nitpicky and go, oh, I would have changed that if I was using Premiere at the time. And then somebody on YouTube, I think, mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. I think I said 1954, and that's the wrong year, so I just thought I'd throw that out there again. It's 1945. I guess I got dyslexic, or, I'm just talking away. So anyway, messed up that date, but here it's on audio, picture-in-picture commentary, and so I remember a poster on YouTube mentioned that too. And then a lot of people ask about this picture, the Dick Sprang portrait, and the reason why I know that so well is I used to go to Comics Inc. in Overland all the time. It's in Culver City in the LA area, and the guy who owns the place, Steve, he's got a big, framed portrait of that Dick Sprang Bat Cave right there. So that always kind of sticks in my head as a Dick Sprang kind of definitive Batman type picture or whatever. So, and I know a couple people had emailed me and asked me about that and kind of oh, where's that from? Where'd you get that? So anyway, that's basically what was going on with that. And so a lot of this pilot actually is kind of taken from a couple different Superboy comics. This is Midnight the Kitty. So anyway, you got to sit down. I'm in the middle of a commentary. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, the comics, right? So there's plenty of Superboy comic books that kind of echo the storyline. I mean, some of them didn't have Lana and they didn't have Chief Parker in them, but the basic, pitch of the story was the same thing. There's a young kid and he's ashamed of what his dad does for a living, and then, Superboy has to sort of convince him that, hey, your dad turned in these bad guys, and, then of course that kind of turns around the boy's opinion. And then here we got the Superboy signal lamp, which is kind of like the bat signal for Superboy. Yeah, so see, here, I started using music in the background. I was thinking of, oh, well, I don't have a bunch of music from this pilot exactly, but I started using, some music from some of the Ruby Spears Superman series, and I just wanted to draw that connection to John Kennedy, how they have, Superboy's first mission, or the one where, Kennedy has the signal lamp access to, besides Chief Parker, things like that. And I guess Lana's dad, who I guess is not in Smallville, because Lana's parents were gone, and then her aunt got blown up and all that stuff. But in the pre-crisis Superboy comics, Lana's father was a professor at some kind of Smallville University or something like that. So he was had a lot bigger role in the original comics. And there's Ma looking out for Superboy. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's cool to examine some of the Superman supporting cast, because I think, like everybody I guess knows Commissioner Gordon, because he's been in so many movies, like pretty much everything, I guess except for one of those movie serials, there's been a Commissioner Gordon in practically like everything. But it's not like there's always been a Chief Parker or an Inspector Henderson in every incarnation of Superman or Superboy. It's like when they do like Lois and Clark episodes, the sheriff is some random chick sheriff, if I recall correctly. It's not Chief Parker. And in like Smallville, the same thing. Like there's not all that consistency, so it's kind of nice to explore some of these characters here. And this, I guess, kind of like the Archie pilot, I kind of go more into plot synopsis, I guess. I think when the pilots and things are shorter, I can kind of afford to do that a little more, because I figure not too many people have seen it, so I don't know, I figure I'm not really spoiling too much, because maybe, a lot of people wouldn't get a chance to see this kind of stuff anyway. And then also, it's short, so sometimes I figure, you know what, I have to get into sort of the meat of what's going on with that. As opposed to like TV series, I guess, it's like the Adventures of Superman. It's like you have 6 seasons worth, and I was trying to condense it down at the time. I was still showing these on YouTube at the time, so I was trying to stick under the 10-minute limit too. So when you're doing like 6 seasons of a TV series, then it gets kind of weird, because you're trying to just nitpick like or cherry pick the best stuff from the 6 seasons. And here, I don't have to cherry pick that much. I can kind of take my sweet time and go through, every step of the plot and kind of, hold people's hands and, move them along. And then I can still kind of, do my editorial here at the end and kind of say, hey, I wish that the 13 episodes would have kept going. Lana Lang. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for checking that out. And by now, I guess. I guess in the other commentaries I have credits, but there was a point where on the YouTube, because it was under the 10-minute time limit, I wasn't doing credits.